Welcome, everyone, to the Assembly Committee on Education. Madam Secretary, will you please call roll?
Assemblywoman Duran.
Here.
Assemblyman Flores.
Present.
Assemblywoman Gorlow.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman Krasner.
Here.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Here.
Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblywoman Miller.
Here.
Assemblywoman Nguyen.
Here.
Assemblywoman Tolles. Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you. Please mark Assemblywoman Hardy and Assemblywoman Hanson present when they arrive. They are presenting in another committee. And then Assemblywoman Tolles, she should be here momentarily. She was just running a little bit late, so please mark her present when she arrives as well. We do have a quorum. Welcome to those of you in Carson City, a lot of new faces. It's nice to see you and welcome. And for those of you watching us online or through our YouTube channel, just a couple housekeeping items that I'd like to announce. For those of you joining online on the Zoom, if you haven't done so already, please make sure to mute your microphone when you are not speaking to minimize the background noise. Additionally, everyone, please put your electronic devices into the silent mode, especially cell phones. For individuals presenting in our meeting, please keep your face covering on at all times and maintain social distancing. We do expect courtesy and respect in this committee. We don't always agree on policy, but we need to be respectful to each other in the legislative process. This is an in-person and online meeting, and this format helps to keep everyone safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. Members of the public may provide testimony in a variety of ways, all which are listed on the agenda. As a reminder, meeting materials can be accessed on the committee's webpage in Nellis. And just a reminder for those of you watching online in this virtual world, we do have several screens as well as documents that we're looking at. So if we are looking away, please don't take that as a sign of disrespect, or we're just sort of navigating in this virtual world. So we have do we have three bills today? We have three bills today. And so we will hear those in the order that we have them. So SB 2, SB 352, and SB 363. We are missing a couple of members, so when they arrive, we may do the work session. I know we have a few people on Zoom here for work session, so we'll start with SB 2, and then if they're back, we'll go ahead and work session the three bills that we have on work session. We will take testimony and support, opposition and neutral. Everyone is limited to 2 minutes, and we will be timing it just to make sure that it is fair. And I think that is it. And with that, I will open the hearing on SB 2. Mr. Keating, you can make your way up to podium and begin when you are ready.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Brad Keating, representing the Clark County School District. It's an honor to be with all of you, especially today in this committee. I cannot be prouder to be wearing purple today in honor of our friend Assemblyman Tyrone Thompson. I'm happy to be here with all of you to provide an overview of Senate Bill 2, which focuses on efficiencies in education. With this bill, we're looking at reducing some unfunded mandates, duplicative reporting, and other tasks that are not targeted towards student achievement and take away from the classroom. The legislation is important to the Clark County School District for a number of reasons. In terms of reporting, SB 2 removes a duplicative report dealing with student information related to IEPs and 504s, which is already included in the state validation report. As it relates to body mass index testing and the Brigance exam, a kindergarten assessment, we have worked with stakeholders to review each of these items to see how we could ensure students' achievement is a focus at all times. So to provide you a quick walkthrough of the bill, there are 3 sections within the bill that I will walk through. Section 1 allows the State Board of Education to prescribe regulations for a new statewide screener for kindergarten students among the choices of early domain options, and also gives teachers 45 days at the start of the school year for teachers to screen their students. In addition, no student that begins kindergarten after the first 45 days of school has to take this new statewide screener. The reason for this change in the bill is because currently all kindergarten students are required to be individually screened in their first 30 days of school using the Brigance exam. CCSD feels that this test is outdated and takes a great deal of time from our educators as the exam has to be administered individually. While our original intent was to remove this test completely, in working with the Nevada Department of Education and learning their thoughts, we felt that working on a regulation towards a new screener would be helpful for all kindergarten students. So that's Section 1. Section 2 of the bill removes reporting requirements for certain information concerning pupils with a disability. This is a redundant report as a count of pupils with an IEP, including disabilities, is already required in the State Validation Day report. This data is given to the Nevada Department of Education and then shared with Aging and Disabilities Division in the Department of Health and Human Services. Again, I want to be clear with this committee and the public who may be watching that we are not trying to reduce the reporting on students with disabilities in any way, shape, or form. All of this information is already made available by school districts in the State Validation Day report. Finally, Section 3 of the bill deals with anonymous height and weight measurements of students that will continue to be collected in school districts in the Clark and Washoe County School District in 4th and 7th grade. Previously, we collected this information in 4th, 7th, and 10th grade, but this became difficult at the high school level, and we were forced to pull students out of English and math courses to collect their height and weight. So we've moved it to just 4th and 7th. Since a random sample was pulled by the Department of Health and Human Services each year, a new set of teachers each year and staff also had to be trained yearly to compile this information on their students. Because of this, the data will now be collected every other year and done at the same time as the hearing, vision, and scoliosis screenings conducted by health nurses currently happening in 4th and 7th grade. This language was supported by all of our health district partners so that they can continue to apply for grants in the future based on the information collected. We appreciate them working with the school district to reduce the burden on teachers, staff, and schools by removing one grade level and only requiring this to occur every other year. With that, Madam Chair, I want to thank you and the committee for the opportunity to provide a quick overview of this bill. It's been an honor to work with so many stakeholders over the last few months in making sure that this bill is something that we can be proud to present. I'm now happy to answer any questions that you or the committee has in relation to Senate Bill 2.
Thank you for the presentation, and committee members. Do we have questions? We'll start with Assemblywoman Tolles.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you. Good to see you today, Mr. Keating, in person, and I love your purple tie. So just more of a procedural question. So we're getting rid of the assessment in the first 30 days of kindergarten, but then down in Section 1, subsection 3, we are still assessing within 45 days of kindergarten, but the purpose of this is to broaden it so that we're not just using, so perhaps we're getting rid of Brigance, but we're able to use some other assessment within the first 45 days. So we're both we're changing the timeline for 30 days to 45 days, and we're changing the way that we assess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Assemblywoman Tolles. Brad Keating for the record. You said it much better than I could have ever said it. That's exactly what we're doing. We are looking at a statewide level through regulation and what the best screener would be for kindergarten students. So we will do that through the Department of Education and through regulation changes. At the same time, instead of keeping it a 30-day timeline at the beginning of school, we've increased another 15 days to allow the teacher and staff and principals to have additional time to be able to test those students correctly. So we didn't want to miss anybody, so we gave ourselves a buffer to do those screenings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I follow up?
Sure.
And if you could answer just a curiosity. So what happens if a student was to transfer in to kindergarten, or, I guess this applies to any of the other grades, but just specifically, what if they were to transfer into kindergarten later on in the year? Do they have to be assessed within the first 45 days?
Brad Keating for the record. Currently, as the law sits now, the students have to be tested within the first 30 days of their enrollment period, regardless of when they arrive in the school. What we would do here is we would look to change that to make sure all students within the first 45 days are tested. The reason that we would not continue testing after the 45-day period, 45-day initial window, is because we move into MAP growth assessments that the students do, a winter and a spring assessment. So by the time the student arrives, within that 30-day window, they'll already be taking their winter assessment. So we'll be able to track the growth on those exams.
Last follow-up, then we would just not have an assessment in that case. We would have a certain percentage of students presumably who might just not get assessed during kindergarten. We just wait till we catch them the next year.
Brad Keating for the record. We would assess them through our growth examinations that all the school districts in the state do through MAP growth tests, but we wouldn't have an individual screener that they would start on day 1 or day 30.
And with that, we will go to Assemblywoman Gorlow.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for being here. I had a quick question regarding the height and weight data that, I'm over here. I had a question about the height and weight data that we're collecting. It's my understanding that that was going to be used to apply for grants. So could you elaborate a little bit more about the grants that have been applied for and how much, if any, awards have been given?
Thank you, Brad Keating for the record. The grant process, so this bill began, I believe, in 2015. It was then, some changes were made in the 2017 session, and Senator Dennis is here and can correct any of the information I'm providing because these were his bills originally. So in 2015, some grants were brought in through the health districts to help kind of kickstart the program. Up to that, since that time, though, there have been no grants that have been attained by the health districts as we have moved forward. Which is why we had looked at tweaking this program and working with the health districts of both Clark and Washoe County. They believed if we minimized this to do it every other year, they'd still have the data to be able to apply for future grants through the CDC. The issue is with the grant process is that they can only apply, I believe it's either a 3 or a 5 year window. I know they'll be on the line, but it's every 3 or 5 years they could apply. So they would be preparing themselves to get into the next window right now.
Thank you, Chair. And can I have a quick follow-up? Yes. Okay. And talking about the grants and applying through the CDC, what type of programs are they looking to apply for? Is it like childhood obesity type programs?
Brad Keating for the record. Again, the health districts should be on the line, but that is what they have done before. A number of different family grant opportunities, community wellness, and childhood obesity grants.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think we have a quick question from Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Chair. I apologize, I wasn't quite ready to answer ask the question. But on page 2 of the bill, the addition to section 1, that's subsection 3, I know that we have the first 45 days of the school year, and obviously, like, as an educator, like, I'm thinking, like, is that 45 business days, is it 45 school days, or just 45 calendar days? And maybe that would be a place for clarification, too.
Thank you, Brad Keating for the record. In working with the Department of Education, the intent was for it to be 45 school days. If we need to clarify that, we are happy to do so.
And I will go to Vice Chair Miller.
Thank you, Chair. So my questions, Dr. Keating, I want to go back to what my colleague was bringing up about the Brigance testing. And first, I'll just preface this by saying, as someone who has been in those elementary school buildings, taught there, when this kindergarten testing is going on, it's quite traumatic and quite an upheaval for the whole school. We're bringing 5-year-olds in, in many cases, 45 days. It often takes elementary schools 45 days to get through it because you're bringing in 5-year-olds that are already it's a bigger adjustment than others to be in school away from home for the day. I've seen kindergartners who have never held a crayon or a pencil or a marker. Kindergartners that after they use the restroom are calling on the teacher because they just aren't at that place where they know how to handle things themselves yet. And so on the flip side, we also know we have kindergartners that come in and can spell and read and write and alphabet and count and all kinds of different levels that we're at. So I've seen what this is like when elementary schools have to put their kindergartners through this. And I've also seen as a workaround, where some actually start the testing before school starts in like a kindergarten camp or a welcome to school camp or something. Because again, then instead of spending weeks and weeks and utilizing all extra staff and time to get these young kids who, on a computer to do these tests, they can actually get it done before school. I can't imagine what that would have done for my love of learning or education if that was my introduction to school. That being said, I've made no qualms about the over-testing that we do here in the state and the district. Although I recognize that some is, required, but there's also additional tests that the districts and individual schools are piling on in addition to what's required by the feds in the state. And so with this, and maybe my questions, and I also know there's a bill coming out of interim ed that was on the Senate side about literally that, examining the excessive testing that the students are subject to. We know this is a subject that parents, educators, and students all agree on. And so if these three components of education, parents, students, and educators are agreeing on it, it's really time to look at the excessive testing. So my question is, one, and maybe my questions are better, maybe Department of Education can answer this. So why are we testing kindergartners to begin with? The idea that we're supposed to measure growth and have a baseline data, we could start, even if we started every student at baseline 0, we would still see that growth for each individual student. So that's my first question. And also, our kindergarten test, because I still believe there's still states where kindergarten isn't even required, are kindergarten tests required at a federal or state level? Because I know that at the state level, they'll do what's required per the feds. So I just want to know if the kindergarten testing, is it actually required, or is this something that's just happening? Because if it's not required by the feds or the states, then why are we still doing it? So Dr. Keating, can you answer that, or is that better for the Department of Ed?
Brad Keating, for the record, I would be happy to take a stab at answering the questions, but if the Department of Ed is on the line, they're probably the authority on these two questions.
I will just let you know, I believe that we have Felicia Gonzalez on the line.
Good afternoon, Felicia Gonzalez, Deputy Superintendent. For the record, we will connect offline, and we will provide Assemblywoman Miller a response from Dr. Moore's office.
If you would go ahead and give that information to my office, and we can disseminate it, but it looked like Vice Chair Miller wanted to follow up.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Director. Does that mean you have to research the answer, that you don't have the answer readily, or is that because you want to make sure that you find the right federal requirements or something? I'm just wondering. It just seems like that would be something that would be known information, so I'm wondering why it would be offline.
Felicia Gonzalez, Deputy Superintendent, Department of Education, for the record. That response would come out of Deputy Jonathan Moore's office.
And he's not on, okay. All right, thank you. And as Chair stated, please make sure that it comes to the entire committee. Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions from committee members? We have Assemblyman Nguyen.
Thank you, and thank you for this bill. I am Googling a language to make sure I'm using the right education terminology. As you know, this is my first time on education, but I am familiar with some of these things. As a parent, I'm always looking at my kids' student performances on their assessments, and I'm wondering if there's a ability to kind of how can I say this? To add like clarifying language to ensure that those assessments are like the criterion referenced. I'm hoping I'm using that correctly. So we know what, like as a parent, I know what the assessment is evaluating. Is it student knowledge or is it that norm referenced measurement against other students? Does that make sense? Did I use those terms correctly? I think I did. Thank God for the Google machine.
Brad Keating, for the record. I go back to my teaching days, and you would receive an A+ for that question, and it was worded exactly appropriate for the conversation. So again, I think that would be a question for the Department of Education regarding how the assessments are, what type of assessment we're using. Again, for full transparency, as the committee can see, when this bill started, we worked to remove this exam period as the Brigance exam. In working with the Department of Education, it was important to them that we continued a readiness screener to make sure students were ready for kindergarten. So I think the best answer I could probably give you is that hopefully in the Department of Ed's answers on the other two questions, they can talk about how this, why the Brigance exam was chosen and how it would apply in this setting.
Thank you. And if we can get that, add that to the list, that would be wonderful.
Any other questions from the committee? I am not seeing any, so you can go ahead and sit back, and I will open up testimony in support of SB 2. Do we have anyone in the room? Welcome to Education Committee in person. Nice to see you.
Am I on here? Okay, sorry. Nice to see you, Assemblywoman, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Bradley Mayer, partner with Argentum Partners, BRADLEYMAYER, testifying on behalf of the Southern Nevada Health District today. The Southern Nevada Health District supports the collection of height and weight data for the purpose of determining body mass index in a sample of students in Clark and Washoe counties. Obesity continues to be a serious problem in our community. And in Clark County, the percentage of individuals who are overweight or obese continues to increase, and this increase will likely accelerate because of the pandemic. According to the most recent behavioral risk factor survey system and youth risk behavioral survey data, 68% of adults in Clark County are overweight or obese, and 29% of high school students in Clark County are overweight or obese. As Mr. Keating mentioned, we worked closely with him and also the counterparts of the Washoe County School District and Washoe County Health District to come up with an amendment that was put on the Assembly side to allow us to still collect this data. This amendment will, require it to be collected for students every other year during their hearing, vision, scoliosis screening. So this data is, BMI is not a perfect measure of this, but this data is the best available source of information, and so it's important from a public health standpoint to collect this data so that we can increase our ability to identify trends and disparities and secure and direct resources to where they are most needed. The importance of this data is particularly relevant considering COVID-19. We anticipate a pandemic to have a negative impact on childhood obesity due in part to increased food insecurity, increased sedentary time, and fewer opportunities for physical activity and organized sports. So the health district has used BMI data collected in the past to support federal funding and has worked closely with the Clark County School District to support the collection of height and weight data. And between 2010 and 2012, we were able to distribute about $250,000 to the school district to buy some of the equipment. And as we go forward into the future, we understand that there's needs that are going to be ongoing. And so as good partners, we will work with the school district to help provide them more as some of these grants come in. They're not on a guaranteed cycle. So that's why the every other year collection works. But in conclusion, we support the continuation of collecting this data. It's important, and we'll continue to work collaboratively with CCSD and other stakeholders to support the efforts to collect this data and ensure it's best used to leverage our abilities to bring additional resources into Nevada to address this issue. And that concludes my testimony, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your testimony. Are there any other folks in the room who wanted to? Yes, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mary Przinski, MaryPierczynski, and I'm representing the Nevada Association of School Superintendents. We appreciate Clark County School District bringing this bill forward. We believe that it's time to review and revamp some of the testing that's done, especially with our little children. And the change for the height, weight, the revamp of that assessment is important as well. Get it out of the high school and at the elementary level. It's much more common sense. It's a good common sense approach to addressing some of these issues, and we're in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the testimony. I see Mr. Daly making his way up. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Madam Chair, thank you. Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSEA also is in support of SB 2 to bring, some small efficiencies to public education in particular. We appreciate any flexibility that can be provided over the kindergarten screening. Finally, we also want to thank the bill sponsor, the Clark County School District, for working with us on the pre-drafting phase of this bill to address some of our issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Senator Dennis? And Senator, I don't know if you wanted to address any of the questions that came up at all about what happened in 2015 or 17. You don't have to, but if you
I can if you'd
want
like.
to give a little bit of clarity on that, I would appreciate that.
Madam Chair, Senator Dennis, for the record, I just wanted to come up in support. I worked with the district. When it originally came out, we kind of dubbed it the Eliminate Mo Dennis education bills because he had like 2 or 3 of them that they were limiting, and one was the height weight, the other one was the civics exam, and some other. But we put that back in, and actually and what I will say, we actually ended up with a much better thing when it comes to the height weight. Before there's been some challenges with even the communication between the health district and the school district. And we were able to get all the the Washoe and Clark health districts as well as the Washoe and Clark school districts together, and we talked to the rurals also, and the change by doing it every other year, eliminating the high school testing because they were having to pull kids out of classes to do it. We actually are now going to end up with a much better data pool because thousands more kids will be able to be tested when they do the scoliosis. And, there was a lot of questions about, usually when you talk about height weight, people worry about somebody, pulling a child up in front of the class and weighing them. And, this is all anonymous and the data is all anonymous. But as you already heard from the health district, they not only do they apply for grants, but they're able to use it in their decision making on the things that they do. It's a huge issue, especially the reason I brought the bill originally was in my community, in the Latino community, we have a disproportionate amount of kids that are obese and overweight, and for many different things. And so I wanted to make sure that we could get the data so that as we look at solutions in the future, we have this timeline. And so that's why it was real important for me to do that. And I can't remember if there was any other questions specific to that, but I'd be glad to answer any on height weight.
No, that's great, and you can go ahead with your testimony and support.
And the other part of this is that I appreciate, I think it's important to look back at legislation in the case of, especially with education, if there are things that we did that have fulfilled their purpose, then to look and see if we don't need those anymore. And I know that that's what they're trying to do, is trying to make it more efficient and make sure that we can educate our children to the best that we can and try to eliminate things that maybe are taking up time that aren't as productive anymore. And so I think it does that. So I think we have a few of these kind of bills this time to help kind of clean up some of that. So this is one of those that does that, and I appreciate them working with me to make sure that we could still do the height weight and our kids could still do the civic stuff and as we do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and I was just also made aware, and I just wanted the committee to know that the Division of Public and Behavioral Health also uses that data to apply for grants. So it's used in other ways as well, and important to get on that record. Is there anybody else in the room who wanted to speak in support of SB2? Okay, what about on the Zoom? Do we have anyone on the Zoom? We do not. So BPS, I will go to the phone lines if there's anyone in support of SB2.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. For callers wishing to testify in support, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. To testify in support of Senate Bill 2, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. We will begin with the caller with the last 3 digits of 987. Caller, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hello and thank you, Committee Chairwoman Bilbray Axelrod and committee members. My name is Marie Nices, MarieNeises, President of the Clark County Education Association. CCA supports Senate Bill 2 and thanks the Clark County School District for bringing forth this bill. SB 2 takes out redundant requirements for reporting and addresses previously underfunded mandates. By giving the State Board of Education regulatory authority to prescribe a statewide screener for kindergarten students, the Nevada education system will have the flexibility to ensure the exam we utilize is current and provides the state with reliable data to provide better outcomes related to student achievement. Further, CCEA supports SB2 because the changes in the height and weight measurements will not take students away from time in the classroom. CCA appreciates the efforts of this committee and all stakeholders for this bill and supports all efforts that allows educators to prioritize learning while giving the flexibility that comes with regulations to ensure that the evolution of the education system can happen. CCA supports the restoration to before the pandemic related budget cuts and the progression to optimally funding of the pupil-centered funding plan. However, as we wait for a bipartisan effort to target new revenue for SB 543, we must leverage all partnerships with government agencies to ensure that we provide the wraparound services that our students need. SB 2 takes a much-needed look at our data collection in coordination with local health districts and will help to provide public health programming in the long run that promotes healthy living and eating habits in our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Next caller in support.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 672, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Bilbray Axelrod and committee. For the record, my name is Joelle Gutman Dodson, JoelleGutman-Dodson, representing the Washoe County Health District this afternoon. I just want to ditto what Southern Nevada Health District's representative Bradley Mayer said. We're in support of this bill, and we're very empathetic to unfunded mandates. So we're supportive of streamlining whatever we can. We wanted to thank Brad Keating and Lindsay Anderson, as well as Senator Dennis, for working with us to keep this measure in statute, so it works for everybody, but it's a little easier for the school districts to maneuver. And we also want to mention that we're here to support Washoe County School District however we can. We've offered to help pay for scales and setting the scales, as well as any sort of education and support we can give them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the testimony, and I'm sure they will be taking you up on those offers, so appreciate that. BPS, anyone else in support of SB2?
Yes, caller with the last 3 digits of 411, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chair Bilbray Axelrod. For the record, this is Lindsay Anderson, LINDSAYANDERSON, on behalf of the Washoe County School District. Timely that I get to go after the Washoe County Health Department. I'd certainly like to thank them for working with us on this piece of legislation as well. And the Clark County School District, we're in support of the amended version. And we think this is going to make it a little bit easier on our school district to collect this data. And I will certainly be reaching out to the Washoe County Health Department and taking them up on their offer. They are already great partners. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your testimony. Next caller in support of SB2.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 498, Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Erica Valdrez, ERICAVALDRIZ with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is in support of SB2. The Chamber believes this bill would provide educators, families, and students with critical knowledge about their children's development and growth. These assessments can provide records of development and lay out approaches to learning. Thank you, Chairwoman and members of the committee, for your time. We urge your support for SB2.
Thank you very much for the testimony. Next caller in support of SB2.
Caller with the last 3 digits of 202. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Paige Barnes, PAIGEBARNES. I'm with Crowley and Ferrata Public Affairs here today representing the Nevada Association of School Boards. I will just keep it short and say that we are here in support of SB2. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the testimony. Are there any other callers on the line in support of SB2?
Madam Chair, there are no other callers in support.
Thank you. And with that, we will close testimony in support of SB2 and move on to opposition testimony. Is there anyone in the room who wanted to offer testimony in opposition? Not seeing anyone. And anyone on the Zoom? We do not have anyone on the Zoom. So BPS, do you have any callers on the line for opposition to SB2?
For callers wishing to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 2, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Callers wishing to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 2, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Madam Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, BPS. And with that, I'll close the testimony in opposition and open testimony in the neutral position to SB2. Anyone in the room? Anyone on the Zoom? We will move on to callers. At BPS, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you. For callers wishing to testify in neutral of Senate Bill 2, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to provide testimony in neutral of Senate Bill 2, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, Madam Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you, BPS. So we will close testimony in the neutral position. Mr. Keating, did you want to come up and make some closing comments? And he's walking up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brad Keating for the record. Just in quick closing comments, want to thank the committee for hearing this bill. Thank all the stakeholders for working with us. Thank Senator Dennis for working closely with us to make sure it wasn't a repeal Mo Dennis legacy bill. And to Assemblywoman Nguyen, I realized when you had asked the question, I didn't even answer your question, so I apologize. I will work closely with Superintendent Ebert and the Department of Ed to receive additional information for the committee. But the Brigance exam is a norm-referenced exam, so that was the answer to that question. So with that, Madam Chair, thank you again for the committee hearing this bill.
She was just so happy to get the A+ that you could have said anything. So with that, we will close the hearing on SB2. And just because we do have a lot of folks on the line for our work session, I think we're going to just do our work session really quickly and get that out of the way since we have all members. So if we could just, our next two presenters just hold on for about 5 to 10 minutes. And we will open our work session. Ms. Robusto.
Thank you, Chair Bilbray Axelrod. For the record, Christy Robusto, Research Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. As nonpartisan staff, I'm not here to advocate for issues. I'm here to assist members with the policy issues that are brought forward to this committee. Our work session documents can be found on the committee website on Nellis. Our first bill on work session today is Assembly Bill 450, which was sponsored by the Office of the Governor and heard by the committee on April 22nd. AB 450 directs the governor to appoint a committee to conduct an interim study concerning opportunities to align the need for workforce training and the programs offered by community colleges in Nevada to meet the needs of the economy of the state. The bill establishes the membership and the subjects that the committee is required to study and requires that the committee provide a report of its findings. There is one amendment that's been proposed by Chair Bilbray Axelrod and adds one member who is a representative of a labor organization in the state and who has or has had a defined role as a jointly administered apprenticeship program to the committee. And the amendment provides a definition for a labor organization. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Busto. Are there any questions from the committee? I see I have Vice Chair Miller and Assemblywoman Krasner. So go ahead, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. My question on, and it's just a brief question on this bill, and I don't know if I saw someone from the governor's office in the Zoom earlier. Yes. Oh, I did. Okay. So my question would actually be for them. After this bill was presented, I actually had a number of different chambers reach out to me because the bill states that there would be representatives from 3 chambers of commerce, 1 from the north, 2 from the south. And obviously in Clark County, we have dozens and dozens of different chambers. So the questions that were coming to me were just basically around the process or the application or the selection process about how chambers would actually be able to petition or apply, be selected. So if we could have some clarity on that, so that, because again, with only 2 spots and dozens of chambers, they were very interested in that process.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Miller. This is Heather Korbulik, representing Governor Sisolak. Thank you for the question. To answer your question, we are have the same process for applying for this commission or board as any other board, which is an application process on the governor's website. And the governor would then choose from members who applied and appoint them to the board.
And just follow up, how quickly after the passage of this bill would that process begin? Because I know the implementation, it seemed like this is definitely something that the governor wants to, do quickly, that, kind of get to work with it. So do you know how soon that members could anticipate that?
Thank you for the question, Heather Korbulik, for the record. So we anticipate being willing and able and capable of taking applications for these positions just as soon as the bill passes. And then we'll make appointments, quickly, because we have a short timeline to get all of this work done. So it is a priority of the governor's, and we will be working on appointments as soon as possible.
Thank you so much for that and for being here to respond. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I believe the other question was actually a comment. So with that, I will ask for a motion to amend and do pass.
I'd move to amend and do pass.
Assemblywoman Nguyen has made the motion. Do I have a second? Second from Vice Chair Miller. And now, do we have any comments? Yes. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Bilbray Axelrod. I will be voting yes to get this bill out of committee, but want to reserve my right to change my vote prior to floor. Thank you.
Sure, and were you going to say the same thing? No? Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the presenters on this bill. I'm going to be a no on this because I'm concerned that it's duplicating efforts with what we already do through Owen. And I'm also concerned with the proposed move of Owen under Dieter and then duplicating this under the governor's office, that there's just would be some silos there and some lack of coordination that I think is just really important. So I'd rather keep it all consolidated together. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Toles, and we had that conversation, so I appreciate that. Anyone else? Okay, with that, we will have the secretary, and it sounds like there will be some difference in voting, so I'll have the nays go ahead and raise their hand after we take the roll, or not the roll call vote, the just all in favor vote.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
And if you would raise your hand, we have Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblywoman Tolles. And the rest are in favor. So thank you. And I will assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Nguyen. Okay, now I will open the work session on SB 173. Ms. Robusto?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 173 was sponsored by Senator Dondero Loop and heard by the committee on April 22nd. The bill authorizes the Board of Trustees of each school district and the State Public Charter School Authority to submit a plan to address learning loss caused by the COVID-19 pandemic to the Superintendent of Public Instruction, and requires the plan include a summer school option and a description of the manner in which the schools will target pupils most at risk for learning loss. The summer school programs must include options for transportation and meal services, and the bill requires that personnel hired for the program receive supplemental pay equal to their contract rate, and certain reports must be submitted as well. There is one proposed amendment provided by Senator Dondero Loop, which does the following. Adds English learners to the list of pupils identified at risk of loss of learning, requires that retired public employees hired for the program have submitted their fingerprints to complete a criminal history report recently enough that they do not need to be submitted again, revises certain dates with which reports must be submitted, and requires school districts and charter schools to compare the results of certain examinations and assessments administered during the spring of 2021 with those results administered from tests administered during the fall of 2021. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Ms. Robusto. Before we take a motion, are there any questions on the bill? Assemblyman Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I see the senators here. Hello, Senator. I just wanted to follow up on a conversation that we engaged in during the bill presentation, namely one of the topics that was brought up. And I do appreciate you adding the English language learners to your bill. But one of the conversations that was discussed is that there are some organizations, nonprofits, different groups that now do a lot of things during the summer that are adequately captured in this bill, right? And so I know one of the conversations we had was about the possibility of saying, why reinvent the wheel when we have such phenomenal organizations out there doing exactly what this bill is talking about, and allowing them to be captured here. I don't know if you had an opportunity to continue that conversation any further or not, and I was just curious to know.
Marilyn Dondero Loop for the record. While we recognize many groups have some type of summer program, this will be a summer school. Also, just as a reminder that we have many different types of counties within our state, and they all do different things because of different type groups of people that live within their communities. So we have some that have 100 kids in a county, and we have some that have 320,000 kids in a county. So this is a submit plan. We do have American Recovery Plan money coming specifically for this. And we feel like this is a really good use for that money for our students, and we hope that those other community groups continue to do what they're doing, because all kids may not take part in the summer school, and so we'll have lots of opportunity for those children.
And thank you for that. I do see Assemblywoman Torres, and I know that we were both having this conversation, so I will stop my line of questioning there and maybe allow for Assemblywoman to continue.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, and I do appreciate many parts of the amendment that are presented with this bill, and I guess I'm still not understanding why we're not adding that language in. I think that this would be really powerful because these programs follow students not just during high school, but throughout the not just through that one summer. It's not a 4-week program. When we look at programs like TRIO, Deans for Future Scholars, those programs are following kids for many years, often through the university and even post the university. And so I just feel like that would be such
vital part of this legislation that would really empower these programs to continue to expand and possibly secure more federal funding, because I know that programs like TRIO, the more students that they get into a summer program allows for more for us to receive more federal funds to expand those programs in the future. So I guess I'm still a little uncomfortable with that, and I just don't understand why it's not being added in, since we know that these programs are effective, and I think it's more than just a summer program or a summer school. What I love about these programs is it's a commitment to follow that kid for so long.
Thank you for those comments, Marilyn Dondero Loop, for the record. I don't think anything in this bill prevents any of that you just described. I actually think that this enhances that. This is basically a 4-week program offered by any school district in our state, and that will allow these students to go to school. And I absolutely would hope that the programs that you're speaking about would continue to embrace these students and follow them and enhance their learning as they would be doing, because it's only 4 weeks, and we know we have more than 4 weeks of summer.
Again, just a follow-up for clarification too, I think the concern that I've heard from my colleagues that work in TRIO is that we're going to be losing students to these programs because they're going to go to their neighborhood school, and we want to encourage the relationship between neighborhood schools. And I just hope that we can continue to work with school districts so that we can encourage those students that are eligible for TRIO and these other programs that are available at the universities to continue to engage with those programs, or we will lose federal funding as a state.
Thank you. Vice Chair Miller, you had a question?
Sure, thank you. Senator, first I would like to thank you for adopting, I'm assuming you adopted it because it's here in the revised, the reprint, the amended version for, what is it, section 2.1. And of course, I'm going to address testing. So I love the amendment because I think it gets at, what everyone wants to see, which is, the growth that's made, because obviously a major part of this program is to, knowing that there's some learning loss, there's also some socialization loss, but, which 4 weeks of summer school will help too, but knowing there's some learning loss and wanting to get our kids caught up. And so we want to make sure that the program was effective. And I think that this amendment is great, just basically having a comparison group comparing the growth and success of students who went through the 4 weeks and those who didn't. But I still, the way that it's written, for me, I believe that this amendment could actually replace any data or any type of exam, because it says, but it still says one or more measures of pupil achievement. So that would, the way it's written right now, mean that you could still give other tests, you could still have other data points, where really I think that this itself should satisfy that need. And it also goes back to even a deeper question, which is, first, in 4 weeks of summer school, I mean, I think that to think that a student who's severely behind and has such a learning loss, that they could make up a whole year in 4 weeks, I think we all agree that that's probably not reasonable. But definitely 4 weeks will get you ahead of where you were. So I just think that this amendment is suffice in itself, and we don't still need the part of one or more measures of pupil achievement. We don't need other measures of pupil achievement. We're just seeing have these kids demonstrated growth. And I think right there between the comparison group that, hey, the students that went through the program did demonstrate growth, and this is how much. So I don't know if that's something, Senator, you want to speak to, or Department of Education, but.
Marilyn Dondero Loop, for the record. I'm happy to have the Department of Ed jump in if they'd like, but our thought is because there was some connection and some issues with doing testing during that 4-week period, what we decided was maybe what we could do is say, okay, so a test that happened this year, right? And a test that happens in the next year. So those tests will happen, and so we'll compare those as opposed to testing during the summer school 4-week session. Now, we all know that there's going to be some type of a baseline, as I described when I presented the bill. You know, if I'm a kindergarten teacher, I'm going to flashcard kids to see where they are. Maybe if I'm doing middle school STEM, maybe I'm going to ask kids, I don't know, what areas, and then we're going to do a bunch of experiments, and I'm going to ask them to do some sort of a fun project. So I'll have something that I'll baseline with, just as a summer school process and not to be recorded. But these are things that we'll be using. And so that's why we put in this that achievement to be measured by post-tests given at the end of the 2021 school year compared with pre-tests given at the beginning of the 21-22 school year.
Follow-up, Chair, and I appreciate that and think that that's the best way to go. I think this is a, but I guess my concern is still, because we all know that there is a difference between what happens here in Carson City and what happens in the classrooms in the school districts. And so when I see one or more measures, as you're speaking as a teacher, and of course we expect and appreciate all of those in-class measurements, I just am afraid that the way it's written with one or more measures of pupil achievement, that still opens the door for the standardized testing and diagnostics during those 4 weeks.
And I appreciate that. We'll just have to agree to disagree, because that is not the intent of the legislation. And we all know that any legislation that we submit in this entire process in the 120 days can always be taken out of context if it wants to be, or it can be put into context. But I will be monitoring this, and I've had many conversations with the State Department and school districts, and I believe that everybody is good with this process. And as a teacher for many, many years that did many different types of assessments, I can only tell you that I feel comfortable with where it is. So, but I do absolutely appreciate your comments.
Thank you, and I will go ahead and take a motion to amend and do pass. Oh, you have a, okay. You're making a motion? Okay. Assemblywoman Krasner has made the motion to amend and do pass, and do we have a second? I'll second. Second from Assemblywoman Gorlow. Any comments before we take a vote? Assemblywoman Hanson and then Assemblywoman Krasner.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Senator. I appreciate your efforts and the intent. I represent 7 districts, school districts, 7 counties, and multiple school boards. I just have an issue with the jurisdictional aspect of it. A lot of them are already doing this sort of thing. Plans are underway. Plans are being considered and going to roll out. And I just feel some of it is duplicative. And also, I just want them to have that authority themselves per district. So I'll be a no. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to Senator John Darrell Loop for bringing this bill that would allow the addressing of learning loss caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and allowing our kids to attend summer school. I'll be voting yes.
Thank you. And with that, Madam Secretary, will you please call for a vote?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
And those of you who are nay, will you please raise your hand? Assemblyman MacArthur and Assemblywoman Hanson are nay. Motion does carry. I will assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Anderson, who is on the Zoom. And if for some reason you can't do it, which I can't see that wouldn't happen, I will take it from you. But congratulations. And thank you for your hard work, both you and Senator Don Darrell Loop, on this important piece of legislation.
Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And with that, we will move to our final work session, which is SB 42. Ms. Robusto.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 342 is sponsored by the Senate Committee on Education and heard by this committee on April 27th. Authorizes the Board of Regents to enter into an agreement to affiliate with a publicly or privately owned medical facility or related entity to further promote and enhance a medical education or health education program at the university. The bill further provides for such agreements. be subject to policies established by the board. There are no amendments to this measure.
Thank you, Ms. Robusto. That's right, there are no amendments to this measure. Do we have any questions, committee?
I have 12 questions.
She has 12 questions. Anyone else? Okay, I would take a motion to do
I'll
pass.
make a motion.
Assemblywoman MacArthur made the motion? No, you didn't?
Krasner. Krasner made the motion.
Yeah, okay, Assemblywoman Krasner made the motion and Assemblywoman Marzola seconded. Any comments from the committee? Madam Secretary, please call for the vote.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
The motion passes unanimously, and I will, of course, give that floor statement to Assemblyman MacArthur. And with that, we will close the work session. Great job, everyone, and we'll go back to our bill hearings, and we are on SB 352, which requires the Commission on Professional Standards in Ed to adopt regulations related to paraprofessionals and student teaching. We have our Senator Dennis, who is the Chair of Education, is what I was trying to say. Please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to be with you this afternoon. Madam Chair and committee members, for the record, Senator Mo Dennis representing Senate District 2. Today I have the pleasure of presenting SB 352, which ultimately helps reduce additional barriers for those who want to become teachers. And I'm excited to be able to work on this legislation. With me today I have Shelley Crawford, who's the principal at C.C. Serrano Elementary School, and Dr. Katie Dockweiler from the State Board of Education, member and school psychologist. Also available online are Deputy Superintendent Felicia Gonzalez and Director Jeff Brisky of the Nevada's Department of Education to help answer questions. So let me give you some background. The phrase chronic teacher shortage has been voiced countless times over the years and remains one of the biggest challenges in our education system. This is certainly not a new issue plaguing Nevada's school system. In fact, this was an issue before I even came to the legislature. What keeps me awake at times is knowing that as more of the state's baby boomers retire, our need for new teachers will only grow, making our teacher corps even younger and less experienced. Nevada is not the only state affected by this problem. Shortages have grown in recent years as enrollment in teacher preparation programs has declined nationwide. One report by the Center for American Progress suggests that these programs have experienced a drop by a third from 2010 to 2018. Districts across the country are facing severe and chronic teacher shortages, especially within certain subjects and specialty areas. We know these persistent shortages can be very costly for districts and can have a negative impact on workforce quality, student outcomes, and school climate, among other things. Even worse, the greatest impacts of these shortages are typically seen in schools that can least afford them. This legislature has done a lot of great work over the years to address teacher shortages, including strengthening recruitment and retention efforts. In fact, the report by the Center for American Progress, both enrollment and completion for Nevada's teacher preparation program slightly increased in the past decade. However, while we have made some progress, it is not enough, and we cannot become complacent. The bill before you today is another way to help eliminate barriers for those who want to enter the teaching profession, which ultimately helps build our teacher workforce. Senate Bill 352 requires the Commission on Professional Standards in Education to adopt regulations that authorize a currently employed paraprofessional who is enrolled in a program to become a teacher to complete an accelerated student teaching program in the same or similar area in which the person is currently employed. The Commission must also adopt regulations that require Nevada's Department of Education to accept student teaching experience completed outside of Nevada if the experience substantially fulfills requirements. As far as proposed amendments, I just realized as I was sitting here that that they did that we did have an amendment that didn't get turned in, that is going to help not only with teachers, but with school psychologists. And so you're going to hear about that in just a minute. That'll help remove those barriers so that we can get some more school psychologists. I think that what really attracted me to this was the fact that the teachers that we're talking about, the future teachers that we're talking about removing barriers, are people that are already working in our schools, but they can't afford to take time off to do student teaching. That was one of the barriers, and you'll hear about this from Ms. Crawford as she speaks about why she worked on this and the survey that she did. I think this gives us an opportunity to really bring folks that are already living in our neighborhoods and going in and are a good representation of our student body that want to be teachers and will have that opportunity. So with that, Madam Chair of Committees, I thank you for your consideration of this bill. I urge support of SB 352, which ultimately helps address those barriers for those wishing to enter the teaching profession and the school psychology profession. This includes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions, but I think you might want to hear the presentation from Ms. Crawford first, and then we could probably answer all the questions that haven't been answered at that point.
Thank you, Senator Dennis. And did you say that Ms. Crawford would address the amendment?
Yeah, either she will or
she's shaking her head.
And we also have the school psychologist here too, Dr. Katie Dockweiler.
Please go ahead, Ms. Crawford.
Hello, thank you for having me. Michelle Iquitos Cruz Crawford for the record. And thank you, sponsor Senator Dennis, for allowing me to present this bill today. So this bill, I'm really excited to be here. I am obsessed with removing barriers, and public education is my passion. I have started this bill the work started as a building principal. I am a current building principal that has about 85% Latinx students and 15% African American students. So I represent a majority minority community. I also serve on the Air Force Guard in the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Headquarters sector. So this bill started because I had some openings of positions within my building, and I started talking to my support staff employees. These are employees that work in the classroom every day and assist with needs such as pulling small groups, instructional needs, diapering, whatever is needed within a special ed classroom mainly. And I noticed that many of them were going to school very slowly because they make under $20,000 a year, but they were going to school. But they stopped their schooling once they got to student teaching. Student teaching takes about 16 weeks. In that time, they would have to quit their job, lose their pay and benefits in order to student teach in a classroom that they're already working in. And I just thought this was absurd, and it would be common sense to allow them to remain in their role and do their student teaching in their job if their area of licensure matched that. So that's where this bill came from, and I will address and show you so the amendment that we added, the first part of the bill is to allow someone employed as a paraprofessional to do their student teaching while remaining employed as long as that area of licensure matches that job that they're doing. The amendment is to add school psychologists. So currently, school psychologists have to take a year off in order to do their internship. And I'll show you some data from that amendment here. So currently, within CCSD, we have 30 psychological service assistant. So they're doing the same job as an assistant for the psychology department. For example, at my school, I have had a new psychologist off and on for the past 3 years. And when I do not have a psychologist in my building, I have a psychological service assistant assess my students. And with this, currently we have 30 within CCSD, and 29 of them are bilingual. So when you have a student that is ELL, you have to put in a bilingual psych request. I have waited approximately about 6 months each time I put in one of those requests. This would significantly improve that. And we currently have 3 PSAs enrolled in the psychological program. So this would have a direct impact, and we would see the benefits right away from that. Escape from here. And I just wanted to show a couple other stats. CCSD recently released a report from the Office of the Superintendents, Teacher Recruitment and Retention Commission. And right here has the student population is in the dark blue, and the employee teacher, licensed teacher population is in the light blue. And as you can see, our white category, Caucasian category, we have significantly more Caucasian teachers than students. And as we go into African American, we have significantly less, about half African American population of students compared to employees. That means we have double the African, I think I'm touching something, sorry. And for Hispanic, we have over here, this is our employee population, this is our student population. So why is that important? When students have teachers that look like them, they are 39% less likely to drop out of high school and 29% more likely to pursue college. So that just shows that representation matters. And this bill aims to also help with that because many of our support staff members better represent our student population. So that is that. I have one more quick thing, if you will allow me. I have a couple support staff members that wanted to share their story about how this bill would impact them. I'm licensed.
Good morning. My name is I've also been
Okay, I'm going to pause on that. I'm having technical difficulties. I do have 4 support staff members that are currently waiting to be able to do their student teaching. They make under $20,000 a year and would directly be able to come into classrooms after their student teaching next year.
Thank you. And
Thank you so much.
If you want to get that queued up, we can, when we go to support, you can have those folks queued up. But I would like to ask you if you could submit that presentation to our committee manager so we can get that up on Nellis. I'd really appreciate that. And then I believe you had one other person testifying, Senator Dennis?
Do we have Dr. Weiler?
Yes, we do, via Zoom.
I think she wants to address the amendment to add the school psychologist.
Good afternoon, Katie Dockweiler for the record, Director of Government Professional Relations for the Nevada Association of School Psychologists. We want to thank Senator Dennis and the Senate Education Committee for bringing this bill forward. This has been a big barrier for school psychologists to get them into the pipeline for many, many years. We do need to complete a 1-year internship in which, like Ms. Crawford mentioned, we would have to quit our employment as a paraprofessional and then lose our benefits to pursue that degree. And so this bill really supports a lot of the work that has been happening in Nevada over the last couple of years through this, through the legislation and through the regulatory process in terms of getting more school psychologists into the schools to help support our students. And this bill really will take down that barrier so that we can make our workforce more robust and get more school psychologists into the pipeline. And if there are any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Senator Dennis, is that it? Would you like to open it up to questions?
I don't, we do have Felicia Gonzalez that's on. She may want to address, the one issue that has come up is the implementation, which I think I can have her address the issue of the date for implementation, and because I think that's important.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
Good afternoon. Deputy Superintendent Felicia Gonzalez for the record from the Nevada Department of Education. Yes, since the Department of Education and the education preparation institutions will be reimagining what the student teaching experience looks like. However, the employers do not need to wait for regulation, as this change in NRS clearly states that current employees can remain employed while completing their student teaching experience or their internship as they will be employed as school psychologist assistants. So because of this, there should be no issue related to the implementation. We will be writing regulation to further define the change in the acceleration for the education preparation program for those support staff employees, and also to write regulation for teachers that live in a foreign country that would like to move here and to teach. We will draft those regulations to further define what that looks like. But as far as the support staff employees, this bill clearly defines what that would look like, and so there should be no issue with implementation as of July 1st and 2021.
Thank you for that testimony. And we'll go ahead and open it up to questions, Senator.
Just one quick comment. The other thing that hasn't been brought up is that this would also bring standardization to the student teaching, which currently now is different depending on the institution that they go to. So this will help to try to standardize that across the NG institutions. And with that,
thank you for that clarification.
Any questions that you might have?
I know I have one from Vice Chair. I have one from Assemblywoman Krasner. Anybody else? Assemblywoman Torres. So we'll go in that order. Sorry. Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Deputy Superintendent, whoever wants to respond. I'll just put it out there. I am one that doesn't believe that we should keep just removing and simplifying it just for the need to, but we're in such desperate need of teachers. We haven't done what it's really going to take to turn this ship around. And yes, we are in desperate needs of teachers, but we keep going back to that ideology that anyone can teach and that we just need people in there. We don't see this happening in other professions. I don't see in the nursing field where, we have a nursing shortage, so we just need to take CNAs and just, fast track them and now they're RNs. So my question is, and my concern is that with student teaching, it really is a clinical experience. I've seen many people fail out of student teaching, which means they can't go on to be licensed as a teacher. And I think that that's something that we want to capture, because if you don't have the ability to perform well enough in student teaching, then that's a real indicator of what would have happened. In fact, I've seen people fail student teaching multiple times and yet continue to be full-time subs. And so I don't want to take away or reduce that experience. That's not to say that there aren't plenty of support staff, and I know support staff too, that have gone through the process and become fully licensed teachers. So we know there's many support staff that want to be teachers, that will be teachers, and will be fantastic teachers. But I want to make sure that we're not reducing it to the point that, because when we just make it too easy for anyone, that's the perception that there is, that anyone can teach. then we get those anyone can teach results. And so it's really about, we talk a lot about making sure we have the best people, the best qualified in our classrooms. And so I'm always going to stand on that side to make sure that we have the best prepared, the best trained, and the best qualified in our classrooms to deal with the extensive and enormous demands of teaching. So I guess my first question is, I feel some discomfort with the way it's written because it's written in a permissive way. And the department has said that there'll be regulations coming, but it's hard for me to picture that. What will be the standards? What will be the expectations? Are we reducing 16 weeks to 1 week? I mean, we see the same inconsistencies with ARL programs. You know, I've seen people come in after an ARL program after 2 or 3 weeks. And so what are we saying? Oh, you've been, instead of doing student teaching, you just do 2 weeks, or we just take this whole thing, you know, your years of working as an aide, as your student teaching. There's so much in student teaching. I mean, it's a clinical. You're evaluated by the college, you're evaluated by your lead teacher, you're expected to perform and demonstrate and teach and do everything on your own and all those responsibilities. And that's what not only really trains and molds you, but also helps us capture those who aren't performing well enough to do it on their own. My next question is also, because there was a discussion a year ago about that this would possibly include individuals that didn't even have their bachelor's degrees yet. So my first thing is, according to NRS standards, we do need, or statutes, we do need a bachelor's degree before you could become licensed, unless it's a substitute or a B&I license. But once that's addressed, could you just give me some idea of what this is going to look like?
So I'll start out, and then we'll have the other folks on the line. This wasn't brought to try to find a easy way to become a teacher. This is for individuals, and Ms. Crawford didn't address this, but she did a survey of individuals that are already currently working and asked what the biggest barrier was for them to become a teacher, and it was having to take off a semester. She mentioned this part, that they work for the school district, but they have to give up their job and their health insurance and all of their benefits so that for 1 semester they can do student teaching. So what the intent here is that they can still fulfill all of the requirements that you need to fulfill for student teaching, but not have to give up your job. Because these are individuals that are already working in the classroom every day, and yet they don't become teachers because they can't afford to take off that semester. So we're just trying to remove that one barrier. In the second thing, you talked about the bachelor's degree, and these are ones that are already working on their degree. And really the last thing that they've got is to, you know, they got to get that student teaching done. And I know having my son, well, my wife went through it not that long ago either, but my son, he had to save up. He was substitute teaching while going to school, and he was able, and he had been doing a long-term sub, and he had to save up to be able to finish that. And so I know there's a big challenge, and many of these individuals, you know, are in that situation where they just can't, you know, they're earning less than $20,000. And so we want to make sure that they're prepared to be in the classroom and succeed, but we just want to remove the barrier. You know, if they're already there and doing stuff, why can't we incorporate that?
Follow-up, Chair? And thank you, Senator, because you bring up another point. In my experience, what I've seen is the same thing has happened, and it happens depending on the school, is that, again, what they'll do is that they would take people who are actually doing student teaching and then hire them as full-time subs. So the reverse. So there's a gap. We have a vacancy. We need a full-time sub. And they're like, oh, well, this person is doing student teaching and they've gone through the process and they're licensed. We've got their fingerprints. So we'll throw them into this full-time vacancy. And so the real concern, because the real benefit of the student teaching experience, and this is the same in cosmetology and whatever it is that you're actually working under a licensed professional during the whole time. And so there's also that supervision that comes with it. And so I guess that's part of my concern too, is that just like when I see student teachers go in and now they become full-time subs and the school says, oh no, there's someone monitoring them. Okay, running, 3 doors down, if you have a question, is not monitoring or supervision. So I guess that's my question too, is, and maybe that's for the department with developing these regulations, is will these individuals be supervised, and will there be some student teaching experience? And of course, what times or amount are we taking? And then I guess it just goes back to the real elephant in the room, then why don't we just provide benefits and pay while they're student teaching?
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that, I don't know who wants to start first, but if Ms. Crawford or Felicia or Ms. Gonzalez, either one, I think they can talk about what what we're envisioning as far as what the process would be.
Thank you, Michelle Izaquitos Cruz Crawford, for the record. Thank you, Assemblywoman Miller. I hear your concerns, and this is the traditional education route. So the support staff members would have their solid 120 plus credits there for 4 years. And then when it comes to student teaching, they would remain in their role if it meets the area of licensure under a licensed teacher. So that's what I was going to show you earlier, the videos. So I currently have a special ed aide in a special ed classroom. However, she'd need to take 16 weeks off, which is not going to happen. What's going to happen is we're stopping people from continuing their education because they cannot pay for that. But she would now, with this bill, be able to stay in her position that she has helped set up for the last 5 years, the new program. And now she would go into some of the teacher roles and responsibility, which is the direct instruction, planning, parent communication, grading, IEP writing. And what we're doing with this, we're actually setting our teachers up for more success, because these support staff members have been working for 5+ years. The majority that I have spoken to, according to my district survey, where I had 1,300 support staff members respond, and have thousands and thousands of hours of in-classroom experience. They live in the communities that they work in, and they're in with their recruitment and retainment. Their retainment would be much higher because they're vested in their community. And you also asked an additional question, like, why don't we pay? I agree. However, I was looking for a bill that was free, because we have so many times thrown out bills that are not funded and they don't happen. This is a way to remove a barrier that increases student achievement and also creates generations of people that are going to go to college, because once they see that their teachers that live in their communities have gone to college, it's basically just creating upward mobility by removing a barrier that is very outdated. A lot of districts and states have removed it. It's in President Biden's recovery plan. It just makes complete sense. I think hopefully I addressed your questions. If not, thank you so much.
You did. Thank you for that. And that last one was just really kind of being facetious, but thank you for addressing it as well, too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that, we will move on to Assemblywoman Krasner.
Thank you, Chair Bilbray Axelrod. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. I did have a question regarding, I think you said it was the bill amendment that didn't make it. And it was regarding the psychological services assistance. I'm not sure who wants to answer my question, but you mentioned that we were going to propose in this bill to have psychological services assistants, or PSAs, that when you can't have a licensed psychologist for the school, you'll use a PSA. And I'm wondering, what will the level of education be for a PSA? Will they be a PhD or a PsyD? And what will their job duties be? Thank you.
I think Dr. Dockweiler probably could answer that.
Thank you, Senator Dennis. And to answer your question, Assemblywoman Krasner, psychological services assistants are support staff. at least in the Clark County School District, we use them to help assist us with evaluation. So they do need to practice under a licensed school psychologist. And a lot of their duties include scheduling meetings, assisting with basic testing functions. There are requirements that they do not have the level of education that a school psychologist does have, and so there's some limitations on what they can do, but they do practice under the supervision of a licensed school psychologist. And the idea of the psychological services assistants is to get them into the field to help support school psychologists. And then in doing so, we can create a pipeline of moving individuals through an education program and support them along the way to make our workforce more robust. And the psychological assistants typically have about 2 to 3 years of education. And it really is that 1-year internship that really prevents them from moving on to becoming a licensed school psychologist. Because they take years and years of schooling, and then it's that 1 year that they must take off to complete that internship that prevents them from moving on. I hope that addressed your question.
So will there be any minimum qualification of education for a PSA, number one? And then number two, you said previously that if, when you don't have school licensed psychologists, you'll use these PSAs. So in those instances, who will they be working under if not a licensed psychologist, if there's not one available?
Assemblywoman Krasner, this is Katie Dockweiler for the record. The minimum requirements for a PSA currently is about 2 to 3 years. It depends on, that's something that we can also work with the Department of Education on with licensing and through regulation. The psychological assistants all do need to work with a licensed school psychologist. So for example, here at my school, but this is how it works everywhere, if we need assistance with any referrals that we receive, then we put in a request for a PSA to come assist us. They are not allowed to handle a complete evaluation on their own. They can assist with specific parts that we task them to do. And then we are responsible for supervising and making sure that everything is done correctly and according to all the legal procedures that are established.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Senator Dennis. I think also you probably heard in the presentation where Ms. Crawford mentioned that she had a PSA come in. What this amendment would do, literally the amendment says school psychologists, support staff, and school psychologists, support staff, and enrolled in a program to become a school psychologist to complete a program of internship while employed as a school psychologist support staff. So the amendment for the school psychologist is similar to the teacher one in that they're already working for the district as a PSA, but this would give them the opportunity to continue to be employed while they do the internship instead of having to do an unpaid internship for a year.
Okay, I guess I just thought maybe they might at least have a bachelor's degree and then be working towards a master's or PhD. Thank you.
I think that's probably, I think Dr. Dockweiler can address that, but I believe that's what they're in that process of becoming a school psychologist, and they need to have that internship in order to do that.
Thank you. We do have a few more questions, so I will go next to eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Assemblywoman Torres.
Torres or Tolles? Hi, good afternoon. I was going to say good morning, good afternoon, Senator. It's always great to have you in the Education Committee. And I really like this piece of legislation. I appreciate Ms. Crawford for reaching out to me to talk to me about the idea much before it was even in the Assembly Committee. So I'm really excited to see this piece of legislation before us today. And I'm just hoping you can maybe give us some clarification too about what this looks like for admin right now, just to compare two programs. Because I know, my understanding is that when school leadership, an educator then becomes a principal, that they have to do something similar where maybe they're shadowing a principal or something of that sort, but they're not required to leave their profession, right? Like they're able to find maybe a more administrative position within the school that they can do, or coaching position, and then still also do that like shadowing or student teaching, but it's something similar, I imagine, for administration. Is that correct?
Michelle Crawford for the record. Yes, that's correct. What I've seen is we do unpaid internships for people that make the least amount of money. So admin has a lot of flexibility. When I did my hours, I was able to continue my role as an instructional coach.
Thank you. And I appreciate that because I think it kind of highlights the disparity and the inequities that exist within the system, right? We know that we really don't have enough teachers, specifically teachers of color, right? We know that we're underrepresented in our schools. And in our communities, I think it would be phenomenal for us to create a program that doesn't fast track becoming a teacher, because that's not what this legislation is doing. It's just kind of streamlining that process so the individuals that are working in the school have the ability to easily get the requirements done and still complete their other training that they need so that they can become an educator. So I think that, this kind of respects that, paraprofessionals play a vital role in our school communities, and they should have access to moving up and becoming educators, and we should encourage them to do so. I have a lot of individuals in my family that have had a lot of issues getting their student teaching done because of that, the amount of time taking off work, changing professions, and we want to encourage them to stay in education and work in education for as much as possible. So I really appreciate this piece of legislation. Thank you for getting that.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Torres, and we will go next to Assemblyman Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for the bill. I was just interested in knowing if we had any numbers of what we thought when we cast this net out there, what this is going to look like. Do we have any understanding of how many folk we think we're going to be pushing through this pipeline? I think that it'd be useful for us to know that, and just how many folk we can really help.
I think Ms. Crawford can address that.
Michelle Cruz Crawford for the record. So I conducted a survey just within CCSD that I sent out to paraprofessionals and gave them approximately 3 weeks to respond. I had 1,398 that this would immediately help or help within the next few years. I took that number and have created facilitation groups where we're mentoring 800 support staff members in enrolling into college courses for licensure, passing their praxis, and whatever else help they need with licensure. So immediately, this would impact about 1,300 on the road, and that's just within CCSD.
Understood. Thank you for that.
Committee, any other questions before we move on to testimony and support? Okay, well, thank you very much. And I will first go to Ms. Crawford. If I hear you are ready with your videos, so we will start that in testimony for support if you want to show those videos. Fingers crossed.
We're going to give it one try. Everything. Okay, Michelle Cruz Crawford for the record. Here are some support staff members that this would affect.
Hernandez, and I am an SPTA at Rondo Elementary. I currently work with the Inclusion Title I Pre-K program, and I've also been in self-contained early childhood. I've been an SPTA for about 7 years, and 4 years prior, I was also a substitute for about 4 years at the same school. So I've been kind of made it a career, my education. And as a single mom of 4 kids, every day is a struggle financially and just with childcare. So that's kind of been a block, like a wall in my career path. It seems like as soon as I want to, get going, finish my degree, something always has to stop me, and it's things that are just out of my control. And yeah, but I mean, I just keep blocking those punches and keep trying to roll, even if I go slow, but it's just been too long. Yeah, those are just my most biggest struggles is financially and just childcare, trying to work full-time and then come home and study and still take care of my family, just providing the basic needs for them and still trying to finish what I need to finish with schooling and finish my degree. So those are my struggles.
Thank you, Irene, for sharing your story. I'm in awe and so proud to work beside you every day. So thank you for what you do. Ms. Fatuma.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fatuma Abdullahi. I'm currently at CC Ronald Elementary School. I'm a SFLS SPTA. Before I did the kids program, and then the kids program turned to the FLS program. I substituted for the district for 7 months before I got the full-time position at CC Ronald Elementary School. I've been here, still here for 5 years now. And right after high school, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. So I've been going at it, taking classes, one class after work, one class after work, one class after work. Because being that I'm at work full-time, I can't take the full-time classes. So now I'm at the point where I'm almost done, 1 year to go. I'm at the point where I have to take my...
So if you don't pass that math portion, you would then take a math. Mancia, you're a little bit earlier in your school career, so I'd like to hear your story.
Yes, hi, my name is Gerania Mancia. I currently work at CC Rano. I've been there for 3 years already. I work with the FLS program. Initially, I started working with the STAR program, but now I'm with FLS, which I really like it. I don't complain at all. I've loved every program I've been in so far. I am in CSN, yes. I've been going there for like 2-3 years already. Honestly, it has been a struggle adapting to work, working full time, and then coming back home, helping around with the family. Because initially, I'm the first graduate from high school, so it's like I have to set an example, but at the same time, I have to work for my goals. So not only am I going to school, but I'm going to work and I'm helping out financially at home sometimes.
I will stop it there, but the next question was what would they do with doubling their income? And they all said that they would be buying a house and helping their siblings go to college.
Thank you very much for that. Is there anyone in the room who would like to testify in support of this bill? I see Mr. Daly coming up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association. NSCA supports SB 352 to allow paraprofessionals seeking a teaching credential to complete an accelerated program of student teaching. We represent paraprofessionals in most Nevada school districts. Paraprofessionals perform critical function helping to deliver high-quality education to Nevada students. This ranges from assisting students with learning their alphabet to assisting their education to becoming functioning members of society. Paraprofessional duties are numerous, include assisting with evaluations of student work, reports on student progress and behavior, conducting small group sessions, helping develop differentiated lesson plans, assisting in instruction, enforcing classroom management strategies, and assisting students with assigned activities. Paraprofessionals are critical to all programs throughout school districts. During this time of online engagement, at least over this past year, they've also been the backbone to special education educators helping students with their online learning. Facing a chronic teacher shortage, especially from Nevada's diverse communities, the career pathway for paraprofessionals to become licensed teachers is of great importance. Many paraprofessionals are already working full-time in a Nevada classroom, already possess many of the skills to be developed through student teaching. There have been many paraprofessionals that have had to leave their jobs just to student teach. This has made choosing between paying rent and finishing their degree a concern for NSCA. We also believe that adding experienced educators to the classroom improves student achievement. NSCA believes accelerating this requirement removes a significant obstacle to a teaching credential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daly, for your testimony. Anyone else in the room wishing to testify in support? Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mary Przenski, here representing Nevada Association of School Superintendents, and we are in strong support of this bill. Obviously, there's a teacher shortage throughout the nation, and Nevada has a serious teacher shortage problem. Our support staff, when they, are working in schools, and they are working towards being a teacher, they understand what they're getting into. So often you have young people who go to college and they think they want to be teachers, and they prep for the teacher profession, and they get in and they teach a couple of years and they realize this is not their cup of tea. It's much different than what they expected. So when the parapros are working in the classroom every day and they're going to college to become the certified teacher, I think we can count on them to stay with us and to, help our students, continue to help our students. So we're in support of this bill. It gives more people an opportunity, and I think it's good for our kids and good for our school districts. Thank you.
Thank you for the testimony. Mr. Keating, would you like to provide testimony?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. Brad Keating, for the record, Clark County School District, testifying in support of Senate Bill 352. We appreciate one of CCSD's own and are proud of Principal Shelley Crawford, who spoke with all of you today, working with a number of community partners, including the Public Education Foundation, and closely with Senator Dennis on bringing this idea forward. Ensuring there's a healthy pipeline, teacher pipeline, is incredibly important to the Clark County School District and the entire state of Nevada. And there's no better way to work towards this than by using the incredible hardworking support professionals that we have in our schools currently. When I had the privilege of teaching at West Career and Technical Academy, I had a SPTA in my classroom who worked alongside me every single day. And it was incredible to watch him work with the students. And I know if he had this opportunity back then, he would have been a teacher today. He couldn't because he wasn't able to afford taking off that time in order to go for his dreams and become a licensed educator. So I appreciate this bill being brought forward so that it helps people like Rodney Jordan, who I had the opportunity to work with, and make their dreams come true as well. Because of this, we urge your passage of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keating. So I don't believe there's anyone else in the room, and I don't believe there's anyone on the Zoom. So we will go BPS. Are there callers in support?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For callers wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 352, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And we will begin with the caller with the last 3 digits of 411. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you, Chair Bilbray Axelrod. For the record, Lindsay Anderson on behalf of the Washoe County School District, LINDSAYANDERSON. And I really don't think I could add anything more than you heard from Dr. Keating and Dr. Przenski, so we are in support of Senate Bill 352. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Next caller in support.
Next caller with the last 3 digits of 023, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair Bilbray Axelrod and committee members. Dr. Brenda Pearson for the record, representing the Clark County Education Association, BRENDA PEARSON. CCEA is testifying in support on Senate Bill 352. SB 352 removes the barrier of student teaching to create a pipeline of paraprofessionals who are eager to advance into the teaching profession. Senate Bill 352 creates a much-needed diverse teacher pipeline since paraprofessionals across our state more closely match the diversity of our students. Recruiting a diverse teacher pipeline is a prioritized goal of education systems across our nation, and now Senate Bill 352 provides Nevada such an opportunity. An important component of Senate Bill 352 is the ability of paraprofessionals to utilize their time within schools to satisfy student teaching experience requirements. Since the student teaching experience lays a foundation of support for traditional educators entering the field, consideration of a high-quality student teaching experience must be central to the development of this program. The better we can prepare teachers upon entry into the field, the less likely they will be to leave the profession within the first 5 years. There must be a careful balance that allows for an expedited course of study and a high-quality experience that will pave the way for these new educators to enter the field prepared. We believe Senate Bill 352 will give us an opportunity to develop a carefully well-balanced course of study. As Nevada continues to create opportunities to build our educator pipeline, we must also be aware of the preparation educators receive prior to entering the field. Nevada's efforts must not only increase the number of teachers employed, but must positively influence teacher practice and student outcomes. This cannot be done without a consistent and stable investment in Nevada's education delivery system. CCEA has continuously voiced our support of optimally funding the pupil-centered funding plan, and we know that this investment will be the catalyst to change. As we wait for the bipartisan effort with leadership by the governor to target new revenue for Senate Bill 543, we know that the students and families in Nevada cannot wait another legislative session. We need change now. CCA is in support of Senate Bill 352, and we are eager to continue conversations with the sponsor of this bill surrounding the need for high-quality student teaching experiences afforded to all future educators.
Thank you for the testimony. BPS, are there other callers in support?
Yes, next caller with the last three digits of 498. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Erica Valdraz with the Vegas Chamber, ERICAVALDRIZ, and the Chamber is in support of SB 352. The Chamber believes the adoption of these regulations will be an effective way of recruiting when we look at qualified out-of-state or out-of-country student teaching experience, all in the while of mitigating the negative effects of teacher shortages and creating a more sustainable supply of well-prepared quality teachers. This bill will not only provide the necessary accountability for our Nevada students and education system, but aid with the process of the additional teachers we need in our state. Thank you, Chairwoman and members of the committee, for your time. We urge your support for this bill.
Thank you very much for the testimony. Are there any other callers in support?
Yes, Chair. If you have recently joined the call and would like to provide testimony in support of Senate Bill 352, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits of 806. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits of 806, please press star 6 now to unmute yourself and begin your testimony.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lucero Rodriguez. For the record, that's Lucero. Last name Rodriguez, and I am voicing my support with SB 356. This is something that would have benefited me. Right now, I am currently in school to gain my master's in early childhood education. I only had the opportunity to do this because I had to take an ARL route. Otherwise, I would have taken 16 weeks off without pay, losing my health insurance as well. So I really hope that you also support this bill because it would support a lot of people that need this opportunity in their life. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any other callers in support, BPS?
Chair, there are no other callers in support.
Thank you. So we will close the testimony in support and move on to testimony in opposition. Is there anyone in the room who would like to testify in opposition? Anyone on the Zoom? We will move on to BPS. Are there any other any callers in opposition?
For callers wishing to testify in opposition, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to provide testimony in opposition of Senate Bill 352, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Madam Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, BPS. With that, we will close opposition testimony and an open opposition, or an open testimony in the neutral position. Anyone in the room? Anyone on the Zoom? BPS, do you have any callers in neutral?
For callers wishing to testify in neutral on Senate Bill 352, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. For callers wishing to provide testimony in neutral of Senate Bill 352, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, Madam Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers in neutral.
Thank you. Thank you very much, BPS. Senator Dennis, do you have any closing comments? Shaking your head, no. All right, with that, I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 352, and I will open the hearing on Senate Bill 363. Senator Dennis, begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, still Mo Dennis, representing Senate District 2 in Clark County. And I'm here to present Senate Bill 363, one of the shortest bills that you will read this session. If you haven't read it yet, you could finish it before I'm even done talking. Bill 363 requires charter school governing bodies that enter into contracts with educational management organizations to report certain information to their sponsors in the legislature. The bill before you today comes as a recommendation from the 2019-2020 Legislative Committee on Education. I had the pleasure to serve as vice chair to Assemblywoman Miller, who was the chair of the committee in the interim, and also Assemblywoman Garlow and Assemblywoman Tolles served. And I'd like to first begin with some brief background information that explains what led to this recommendation. During LCE's September meeting, the Executive Director of the State Public Charter School Authority provided the committee with information on the services provided by EMO to charter schools. These services included academic supports such as professional development or coaching, back office supports, bundled services such as human resources, information technology, payroll, and facilities maintenance. The amount paid to EMOs depends on the level of service provided to a school. Testimony indicated nationally, schools on average pay approximately 12% to EMOs. In Nevada, EMOs report to the governing bodies of the charter schools in which they serve. This evaluation may include a review of the school's annual revenue and expenditure report and its financial audits. With that background in mind, I would like to now cover what 363 does. In order to better inform the governing bodies and policymakers how charter schools are operating with respect to EMOs, 363 requires that SB 363 requires that each of Nevada's charter school governing bodies that has a contract with an EMO to report to the sponsor of the charter school the amount paid to the respective management organizations. Additionally, each sponsor of a charter school that has a contract with an EMO must submit a report with the same information to the legislature by November 1st of each even-numbered year. And Madam Chair, members, that this concludes my presentation. Urge support of SB 363, which further supports transparency efforts, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that brief presentation. I think we all appreciate that at this later hour. Committee, do we have questions? Everyone just looking down. Okay, so I think we will move on to testimony in support. Mr. Daly, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association. NSCA supports SB 363, requiring charter schools to report the amount they pay to educational management organizations. Over the last several years, NSCA has been calling for greater accountability for charter schools. SB 363 is a small but important reform that will help shine some light on what happens to millions of taxpayer dollars directed to charter schools. We know the explosive growth of charters has been driven by a deliberate billionaire-backed effort to exempt charters from the basic safeguards and standards that apply to our neighborhood public schools. This growth has created an uneven dynamic, undermining local public schools and communities without producing an overall increase in student learning and growth. However, it wasn't until last June when the Nevada Current reported on a dispute between the American Preparatory Academy in Las Vegas and their Utah-based for-profit management organization that we were able to view more of the inner workings of the charter industry. This included large payouts to education management organizations who the charter claimed provided little in terms of services and complicated financial relationships related to charter school facilities. We'd urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Anyone else in the room? Anyone on the Zoom? BPS, do we have callers in support?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For callers wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 363, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. We will begin with caller with the last 3 digits of 498. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman and members of the committee. My name is Erica Valdez with the Vegas Chamber, ERICAVALDRIZ, and we are in support of SB 363. The Chamber supports the requirement of each charter school's governing body to submit a report to the State Public Charter School Authority. We believe these reports would be beneficial when we look in terms of continually progressing our charter schools and its operation performance. These reports will help each charter school governing body to understand the current performance levels, set goals, and evaluate areas to make improvements. This bill will provide transparency and accountability for our students and the State Public Charter School Authority. Thank you, Chairwoman and members of the committee, for your time. We urge your support for this bill.
Thank you for the testimony. Any other callers in support?
Chair, there are no other callers in support.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we will close the testimony in support and open testimony in opposition. Anyone in the room? Anyone on the Zoom? BPS, do we have any callers in opposition?
Madam Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much, and I will close the testimony in opposition and open the testimony in the neutral position. You guys know the drill. Anyone in the room? Anyone on the Zoom? Anyone on the line, VPS?
Again, Madam Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers on the line in neutral at this time.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much. And with that, I will close the testimony in neutral and invite the sponsor if you would like to come up. There you are.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to thank you for letting me spend the afternoon with you and talk about some important issues on education and appreciate on this bill just to bring some more transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. So with that, we will go to our last agenda item, which is public comment. Just a reminder, public comment is not an opportunity to rehear any of the bills we heard. It's just to speak about items that are in the general purview of this committee. Each person calling in with public comment or in the room will have 2 minutes. And I believe it looks like someone is coming up in the room. Is that correct, Mr. Marks? Oh, you're shaking your head. No. Okay, so we will go to the phone lines. Is there anyone on the phone line who wishes to provide public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The public line is open and working. There are no callers in the line for public comment at this time.
Thank you, BPS. So I will close that. And then just have a couple comments for myself, and I don't know if any other members do. Today is the second anniversary of the loss of the former chairman of this committee, Tyrone Thompson, who affectionately known as T-Square to many of us. When I found out that I was chairing this committee, I knew that I had really big shoes to fill, and I have to be honest, I really think of him every day when I walk into my office, and even when I do anyone in the room or on the Zoom makes me think of Dr. Seuss, which makes me think of him as well. So he did so much for the kids in this state, and we miss him a lot, don't we? Yeah, we really do. So, just wanted to bring that up and then bring us back to something a little happier, which is that it is a Teacher Appreciation Day. I know I'm not a teacher myself. Well, I guess Molly would say I'm a teacher. I don't get paid for it, but it is an amazing profession, and I would be lying if I didn't think about it. I always think that I would be a kindergarten or first grade teacher because I just love that age. But for those of you in our committee who are teachers, thank you for doing what you do. And for my sister, my oldest sister, Bridget, who taught in the Clark County School District for over 25 years, she's just amazing. I see how much she works every single day still to this day, and I'm just amazed. So I always think of, if you can read this, think a teacher, right? And it's just so much more than that. I think all of us can think of that teacher who inspired them, even when you didn't get what they were trying to teach and would just work with you after school or do whatever. I know I took Latin in high school and college. In the third year of Latin, my senior year, and I was like, I'm going to fail. I was with seminary students. I'm like, I don't even know how I got here. And my teacher worked with me every single day. I don't know any of it, if you're wondering. I'm still amazed. But so did you want to make a comment, Assemblywoman Tolles? So thank you, teachers out there, for all you do. And we miss you, Tyrone. Assemblywoman Tolles.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for the opportunity to remember our good friend. I served with Assemblyman Chair Thompson Tolles, Chair Thompson since 2017, and then knew him as an advocate when I was a mom advocating for education and child abuse prevention. Before that, he was always had the door open, and both when I was an advocate as well as a committee member, and he was such an incredible friend and encouragement and a presence in this building. And he is deeply missed, and I think he would be very proud of the way that you are chairing this committee, and also having an open door to all the advocates, parents, teachers, committee members. Carrying on that legacy is so important, because education is something that impacts all of us, whether we're parents, whether we're teachers, whether we're employers, every single aspect of this state. And it's not a partisan issue. It's a family of Nevada issue. And I really appreciated his legacy, his friendship, his leadership, and I appreciate this committee and how I believe we can say we've carried that on, and I'm so proud to be a part of this.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Tolles, and thank you for saying those nice things about me. I really do feel like big shoes. So with that, we will talk about our next meeting, which is May 6th. It is scheduled for 1:30, and I intend to start as close to 1:30 as possible. I know we do have the police officers memorial at 1:00. So I don't know if members were planning to attend, but if you could please scurry back over here as soon as you can, because we do have afternoon meetings, and I just want to make sure we get through everything. So with that, may the 4th be with you, and we are adjourned.